Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, September the 5th. Two main topics in today's video discussion will be the tropical scene. We have what we call a long track type of tropical system that will trek all the way across the Atlantic Ocean over the next week to 10 days or so. It could potentially come awfully close to the U.S. East Coast later next week. Certainly something we will monitor over the next several days. Also, we have some excessive high heat and humidity that will continue over the next 3 days or so in the mid-Atlantic region. The northeast U.S. certainly will be record challenging heat on each of the next few days in that part of the nation. Let's start off with the tropical scene. Right now we have a system over the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. It came off the west coast of Africa. And by the way, there's a follow-up system here right along the west coast of Africa. This system moved in this direction and will continue to move basically west to west-northwest over the next 5 to 7 days or so, and eventually it will be a threat to the U.S. East Coast. We'll talk about some of the factors that will become important players over the next 7 to 10 days or so. It's just way too early to say if it ever makes it to the U.S. East Coast, but it certainly looks like it'll come close enough that it'll be a concern. Again, we're talking about later next week. The remains of Idalia, by the way, right in this region right here, not far from Nova Scotia. It crossed over the Big Bend region of Florida. Middle of last week, I guess landfall was on Wednesday. It was officially called a Category 3 hurricane upon landfall. I did not see any Category 3 type winds. I don't know if they will reanalyze that and maybe drop it down to a Category 2. It peaked at a Category 4, certainly started to weaken just before landfall. Again, I did not see Category 3 type winds reported anywhere, but for now, it made landfall as a Category 3 and then moved across Georgia and then off the Carolina coast, kind of meandered around for a few days, and now is sitting right in this part of the northwest Atlantic Ocean as a much weakened system. Well, let's start off by taking a look here at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from last night's 0Z run of the ensemble version of the GFS. We'll talk about, first of all, the heat wave over the northeast, the mid-Atlantic region over the next few days, but also look long-term later next week or so with respect to that tropical system, which, by the way, is likely to become a major hurricane. I believe its name would be Lee, and we'll talk about some of the players involved that will certainly monitor closely over the next several days. First of all, starting off today here on Tuesday, September 5th, this is a reflection at 500 millibars of Idalia. Again, it crossed the Big Bend region of Florida and then meandered off the coast and is now in a much weakened state off of Nova Scotia. But notice a lot of orange showing up here along the eastern third of the nation. That is upper level ridging associated with very hot and humid conditions, especially in the mid-Atlantic region, northeast U.S. for the early part of September. Now, let's move forward here in time and we'll see. First of all, here we are on late Tuesday and then into the day on Wednesday. Notice this ridge kind of really peaking right along the mid-Atlantic region, northeast U.S. And in some sense, tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, could be the peak of this heat wave, maybe by a couple of degrees in some spots. And certainly there can be some record-challenging heat today, tomorrow, and Thursday as well in the mid-Atlantic region, in the northeast U.S. But notice troughs starting to show up here by the time we get to tomorrow morning over the northern plains, and that will ultimately bring some unsettled weather to the mid-Atlantic region and ultimately some relief as well. Here we go into the day on Thursday, and that is a pretty potent little system here, and it's been quite dry, relatively rain-free over the mid-Atlantic region over the last several days, really the last couple of weeks. This is the next decent shot at some showers and thunderstorms showing up here on the maps for Thursday morning over the Great Lakes. By the afternoon and evening hours in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., there will be a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Now, let's keep moving forward here. By the way, strong upper level ridge over the southwestern states as well. Here we go into the upcoming weekend. Trough kind of replaces that ridge that's currently existing right now over the eastern third of the nation. A trough starts to form here by the end of the week. And again, the weather becomes unsettled beginning around Thursday night and continuing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in much of the eastern part of the nation. And here we start to see the reflection of 500 millibars already by the end of this work week here of what I believe will become named Lee and ultimately has a chance of becoming a major hurricane. Now, let's move forward here. Notice a strong upper level ridge over the Canadian Maritime provinces by the early part of the weekend. It certainly will help to continue to push this system to the west or northwest as we go through the upcoming weekend. Still a trough over the eastern states. And again, unsettled weather develops probably by late Thursday in the eastern third of the nation. And it looks like it'll continue right through the upcoming weekend. Now, let's move forward here. And here comes that tropical system, likely a hurricane, maybe a major hurricane by this time. Here we are all the way out into the early part of next week. That is a healthy look at the 500 millibar level, again, which could be a major Hurricane Lee at this particular time. Now, that ridge over the Canadian Maritime still sitting there, but kind of in a weakened state. And then we see troughiness starting to really form over the eastern states here by the middle of next week. This is next Wednesday. We're looking at September 13th, and this will be a very important player. We'll see how this forecast evolves over the next several days with respect to this trough. Now, it could do one or two things. It could help to kick out the tropical system so that it never does reach the U.S. East Coast. But if the timing is a little bit different here, it could kind of capture it and pull it towards the East Coast. Something we'll have to monitor certainly over the next week to 10 days or so. Here we go all the way out to next Thursday. Again, here's a reflection of right now. It looks like this trough has better than 50-50 chance of preventing that system from making it to the U.S. East Coast, but it's still way too early to write anything off. Again, the movement of this trough will be critical, as will any kind of a ridge that can redevelop over the southeastern part of Canada. We're all the way out now to Thursday of next week, so we'll go out a little bit farther in time. And here we go, by the end of next week, we have this overall trough sitting over the eastern states, and we'll see how it interacts with what very well could become a major hurricane named Lee by the weekend, or certainly by the early part of next week. That'll become a hurricane over the next several days or so. And then again, we're talking about the potential impact along the U.S. East Coast later next week. Well, let's kind of redirect our attention to the continental U.S. and the hot weather over the eastern half of the nation over the next day or so, and then over the mid-Atlantic northeast U.S. right into the end of the work week. Here we are beginning the day here on Tuesday, September 5th. Very much above normal conditions over the eastern half of Canada and much of the eastern half of the U.S. There's some cooler than normal weather across the interior northwest and across California, southwestern part of Canada as well. Now, let's move forward here. And again, in some sense, tomorrow, Wednesday, could become the peak day for this heat wave. It certainly can be record challenging heat, both this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon in the Mid-Atlantic region, really into the day on Thursday as well. And that it also pertains to the northeastern part of the nation. But here's a cooler than normal air mass showing up on the maps by tomorrow morning. And there's a frontal system right here that represents our best chance of showers and thunderstorms in the Mid-Atlantic region by Thursday night or so. Our best chance compared to what we've experienced over the past couple of weeks. And here we go into the day on Thursday, certainly still maintaining the excessive heat and humidity in the northeastern quadrant of the nation on Thursday. Highs each of the next 3 days well up in the 90s in most areas, and certainly along the I-95 corridor region. But here we go, frontal system right here across the Midwest on Thursday afternoon. It could throw some showers and thunderstorms in the I-95 corridor region late Thursday night time frame, potentially even some severe thunderstorms. We'll have to monitor that possibility. over the next couple of days. And once this trough kind of sets up over the Ohio Valley, over the eastern U.S., it sticks around for a while. So this frontal system kind of moves into the northeastern part of the nation, tends to stall out. Low pressure may form along that stalled out frontal boundary zone, and basically remains unsettled in the eastern half of the nation, the eastern third of the nation, I should say, from Thursday night right through Friday, right through Saturday, right through Sunday. Let's go out a little bit farther in time into the day on Sunday and all the way into next Monday. And you'll see cooler, the normal air starting to show up here at a widespread area a week from right now. Overall, it looks like certainly cooler weather next week as compared to this week in the eastern and central part of the nation. Here we go. This is a reflection of the temperature pattern by, again, what should become Major Hurricane Lee here a week from right now. This is next Tuesday, and certainly something we will closely monitor, as it could ultimately have an impact on the U.S. East Coast. Well, let's now go through the surface forecast maps. We're using the 0Z run of the GFS. All of these maps, by the way, from tropicaltidbits.com. Rain-free conditions, very, very hot and humid. Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. high temperatures, probably 95 degrees. Places like Philadelphia, maybe 98 degrees in D.C. Certainly can be some record-breaking type heat this afternoon, and again tomorrow afternoon, and perhaps even Thursday afternoon. I believe the record today and tomorrow in Philadelphia at the International Airport, PHL, 95 degrees. So that's within reach. Both this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon. Now, let's move forward here. We have this frontal system right here showing up on the maps by tomorrow afternoon. And here we go into the day on Thursday. And there it starts to kind of expand in radar echoes. And again, there's even the chance of some strong to severe thunderstorm activity. We're talking late Thursday night in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Northeast U.S. And we'll see here that once that frontal system moves into the northeastern states, it kind of sticks around, kind of stalls out. This is a Saturday morning forecast map, and it's really kind of washing out right in this area by the upcoming week and stalling out. And here's some low pressure forming along that frontal boundary zone. The bottom line, all this green suggests it stays unsettled right through the upcoming weekend. Here we are on Sunday, and look at all this, the threat for showers and embedded thunderstorms right through the upcoming weekend. Carolinas, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. And here we go. This is what very well could be a major hurricane at this particular time by latter part of the upcoming weekend. Very impressive central pressure, 938 millibars and 941 millibars. And again, it's a little too early to say exactly where this ends up going, but we'll certainly have to monitor it for later next week for potential impact along the U.S. East Coast. It comes too close for comfort, something we'll have to monitor. At this particular time, it looks like a pretty strong upper-level trough will move into the eastern part of the nation a week from right now, and that could help to prevent this from ever making it all the way to the U.S. East Coast. But so I would say right now odds favor it staying away from the U.S. East Coast, but way too early to write that off. We're talking a week to 10 days away. We'll go out a little bit farther in time. And here we go all the way into the middle of next week, and there it is, what again could very well become a major hurricane named Lee over the next several days. And again, a lot of troughiness over the Great Lakes, Northeast U.S., and how exactly that interacts with that long-tracked tropical system will be the focus of attention over the next several days. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.